The attic smelled of cedar and forgotten time. Dust motes danced in the single beam of afternoon light slanting from the dormer window, illuminating a lifetime of carefully packed memories. At 62, with the gentle stoop of a retired history professor, I felt a certain kinship with these relics. I was up here on a mission of sentimentality. Our 37th wedding anniversary was on Sunday, and I wanted to find the old leather-bound portfolio from Eleanor's university days. It held her earliest sketches, the ones filled with impossible buildings and audacious dreams, long before she became a partner at Thorne & Associates, one of the city's most prestigious architectural firms. I imagined framing one, a reminder of the brilliant, fiery young woman I'd fallen for. After shifting a box of our son's old college textbooks and a stack of vinyl records that hadn't seen a needle in decades, I found it. The leather was cracked and soft, the brass clasps tarnished. I sat on the dusty floorboards, my knees protesting, and opened it. The smell of old paper and graphite filled the air. There were the sketches I remembered. A library with a spiraling glass roof, a concert hall shaped like a crashing wave. And then, tucked into a hidden flap in the lining, my fingers brushed against a different kind of paper. It was thick, legal stock, folded into a neat, flat rectangle. Curiosity, innocent at first, pricked at me. I unfolded the documents. The letterhead was from a law firm I didn't recognize. My eyes scanned the dense text, and the words began to swim into focus, then sharpen into daggers. Petition for dissolution of marriage. My breath hitched. Below it, the names: Eleanor Vance, petitioner, and Arthur Vance, respondent. My name. Her name. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage of bone. This had to be a mistake, a misunderstanding. But then I saw the date, stamped in faded blue ink at the bottom of the last page. It was from 20 years ago. 20 years. We had been married for 17 years at that point. Our son, Michael, was in high school. I remembered that year. It was a good year, or so I had thought. We'd taken a trip to the coast, I'd just received tenure, and Eleanor had landed the big museum project that made her career. We were happy. I sat there in the silence of the attic, the divorce papers trembling in my hand, as 37 years of my life re-spooled in my mind, now tainted with a question I couldn't answer. Why? Why would she have drawn these up? And more terrifyingly, why had she kept them? The days leading up to our anniversary were a special kind of hell. I was a ghost in my own home, a historian trying to excavate the truth of a life I thought was my own. Every shared smile from Eleanor felt like a performance, every casual touch a potential lie. I watched her as she got ready for work, the meticulous way she applied her makeup, the confidence in her posture as she donned her tailored suits. Was this the same woman who had once planned to serve me with divorce papers? Her work had always been demanding. Late nights were common, especially with her boss, Marcus Thorne. Marcus was a force of nature, charismatic, powerful, with a wolfish grin, and a reputation for being as ruthless in business as he was charming at dinner parties. I'd always found him a bit too slick, but I'd chucked it up to professional jealousy. He had my wife's time and attention in ways I no longer did. Now, my mind painted their relationship in a sinister new light. Those late-night strategy sessions, the business trips they took together. Was he the reason? Was he the man she was going to leave me for 20 years ago? The thought was a venomous serpent coiling in my gut. I started to notice things I'd previously dismissed. The way Eleanor's phone would light up and she'd quickly turn it over if I walked into the room. The slight tension in her shoulders when she spoke of Marcus. The expensive bottle of single malt scotch on our bar cart. A gift from him, she'd said, for closing a deal. It was a brand I knew she didn't particularly like, but Marcus adored. I became a detective in my own marriage, and I hated the man it was turning me into. One evening, she was in the shower, and her laptop was open on the kitchen counter. I'd never violated her privacy in nearly 4 decades, but the yellowed papers in my desk drawer were a permission slip from a past I didn't know we'd had. My hands shook as I navigated to her emails. A quick search for Marcus's name brought up thousands of results, mostly mundane work chatter. But then I saw a folder, cryptically named MT Projects, Personal. My blood ran cold. It was password protected. Of course it was. The night of our anniversary, I couldn't pretend any longer. Eleanor had booked a table at our favorite restaurant, the one where I'd proposed. She wore a stunning emerald green dress, the color of her eyes. She looked beautiful, and it broke my heart. She raised her champagne glass. To 37 years, my love, and to many more. I couldn't lift my glass. I just looked at her, and the carefully constructed dam of my silence finally broke. I was in the attic, Elle, looking for your old portfolio. Her smile faltered, a flicker of confusion in her eyes. Oh, did you find it? I did, I said, my voice low and unsteady. I found something else, too, tucked inside. I watched the color drain from her face. She knew. In that moment, she knew exactly what I'd found. Her composure, the carefully crafted armor of the successful architect, crumbled. Her hand trembled as she set her glass down. Arthur? They were dated 20 years ago, I continued, the words tasting like ash. All that time, Eleanor. All this time you had them. An escape plan. Was it for him? Was it Marcus? Tears welled in her eyes, spilling onto her cheeks. She didn't deny it. She just nodded, a small jerky movement. Yes, she whispered, her voice cracking. It was for Marcus. The confession landed like a physical blow. The air left my lungs. The background chatter of the restaurant faded into a dull roar. So it was true. The late nights, the trips, the secrets. My marriage was a sham, a long-running play where I was the only one who didn't know his lines. I was going to leave you, she said, her words tumbling out in a torrent of guilt and grief. I was in love with him, or I thought I was. He was exciting, powerful. He saw a part of me that I felt had been buried under carpools and parent-teacher conferences. I was a fool. My anger was a white-hot flame. A fool? You were my wife. Our son was at home. We had a life, a real life. And you were ready to burn it all down for that? That snake oil salesman? It's not that simple, she cried, drawing the attention of a nearby table. You don't understand. Then make me understand, I shot back, my voice louder than I intended. Make me understand how for 20 years you've been living a lie. She took a deep, shuddering breath, her gaze meeting mine. The look in her eyes wasn't just guilt, it was fear. A deep, abiding fear that I'd never seen before. I couldn't leave, she said, her voice barely audible. I went to his office to tell him I was leaving you and starting the proceedings. I was ready. But he showed me something. She explained that Marcus, far from being a simple paramour, was a criminal. His entire firm, the shining beacon of modern architecture, was a front. He was using shell corporations and falsified invoices on major construction projects to launder money for some very dangerous people. And he had made sure her signature was on some of the most damning documents. He didn't love me, Arthur, she wept. He owned me. When I told him I was leaving, he smiled. He opened a file and showed me paperwork that would not only send me to prison for 20 years, but would implicate you as a knowing accomplice. He said he'd made sure our finances were so entangled with the company's fraudulent accounts that no one would believe you were innocent. He'd ruin us. He'd take our house, our savings, Michael's college fund. He'd destroy our family. The divorce papers weren't an escape plan from me. They were a failed escape plan from him. Her affair hadn't been a passionate romance. It had been the bait in a trap. For 2 decades, every late night, every business trip, every forced smile in his presence had been part of a horrifying penance. She hadn't stayed with me out of pity or inertia. She had stayed to protect me. She had been his prisoner, and our marriage, our home, had been the walls of her cell. The world tilted on its axis. The anger in my chest dissolved, replaced by a cold, hollowing dread, and then a wave of profound, aching empathy. The woman across from me wasn't a traitor. She was a soldier who had been fighting a silent, lonely war for 20 years. All the little signs of deception I'd noticed were not signs of infidelity, but of her terror. I reached across the table. They were ice cold. "Why didn't you tell me, Elle?" I whispered, my own tears now falling freely. "Why did you carry this alone?" "I was so ashamed," she choked out, "and I was so scared. At first, I was protecting my pride, my career. Then I was protecting you. He was always watching. How could I put you in that kind of danger? How could I tell my loving, honest husband that our entire life was financed by a lie I'd helped build? So I just kept going, one day at a time, for 20 years, hoping he would retire, that it would all just go away. We left the restaurant, leaving our uneaten meals and full champagne glasses behind. That night, we didn't sleep. We talked. For the first time in 20 years, we truly talked. She told me everything. The threats, the fear, the crushing weight of her secret. I held her and I listened, and I mourned the 2 decades of honesty that had been stolen from us. But as the sun began to rise, casting a pale, hopeful light into our living room, I didn't feel broken. I felt a renewed sense of purpose. We're not his victims anymore, I said, my voice firm. He doesn't get to take another day from us. It was a long